We read this morning, you'll read Parshat Shemot for us, Avichai, over Shabbat. And Parshat Shemot is there's an interesting correlation between the idea of becoming bar mitzvah and starting this new book of Exodus. Because we conclude the book of Genesis, and it seems like Genesis, Bereshit, is a completely separate journey from that of what happens in Shemot. So much so that we really have to stretch to find any connection of lineage at all between the characters in the narrative of Genesis and what happens in the book of Exodus. Yet I like to think of what happens in Genesis as the beginning of humanity, the beginning of the Jewish people. That's more, being raised by your parents, that the Jewish people are being raised by God. And we get to the book of Shemot, specifically what happens at the beginning of the book in Parshat Shemot, and all of a sudden we become an adolescent. We deal with the trials and tribulations of peoplehood. We deal with the challenges of being a teenager, the challenges of struggling with authority, struggling with laws, struggling with what it means to be an adult. We like to think that we have our family and our parents to guide us, but sometimes we make those decisions on our own. We don't always have, hopefully we always have them talking in our ears, knowing what we think they would tell us to do, but that's not necessarily the case. Yet what, as parents, you did give Avichai, and you will always give Avichai, continue to give him, and we know that he'll always have with him is his pride in who he is and in his identity. In this week's Torah portion, Moses doesn't grow up as an Israelite, doesn't grow up among the Jewish people. He grows up being raised by Bat Paro, by Pharaoh's daughter, living in Pharaoh's palace. And yet, when he goes out and sees a taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave, he doesn't just say, oh, this is a terrible thing. The text says that he sees a taskmaster beating an Ish Ivri Me'achav, a Hebrew slave from his brethren, a Hebrew slave that was his kinsman, that he knows that he is forever connected, regardless of whatever he chooses to do, regardless of however he chooses to live his life. Because of his own household, because of his parents, how he was raised as a young child, he forever is connected to the Jewish people and forever is linked to hold on to his Jewish identity. So as Avichai becomes bar mitzvah, becomes an adult in the Jewish community, he will forever be connected to the Jewish people because of how you have raised him. I have no doubt he will be strengthened in his Jewish identity because of how you continue to raise him and your continued relationship with him. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov, B'motenu Sarach Ka'arakav Aleah, Hu Yivarech et Harav Matzityahu Shmuel Yehonatan ben Harav Chaim Emmanuel Vesima Mendel Ve'et Shedela Bat Zev Esther Horei Habachor Habar Mitzvah Keshem Shzachu Legadel et Benam Ad Hayom Hazeh Ken Yizku Lamshich Ladorich et Benam Liyot Ben Ne'eman La'am Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yechazkem Ve'amsem Yivarachem Bechesed Shalom V'nomar Amen.
Amen.
May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless Rabbi Jonathan and Susan Lubliner, parents of Avichai Lubliner, who becomes a bar mitzvah this Shabbat. They thank you for strength you have granted them to raise their children so that he could reach this time. Guide them to recognize their child's new responsibilities among the Jewish people. Bless them with joy and fulfillment on this day and every day. And let us say,
Amen. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov.